Hi there, my name is Paul and I'm reporting about the Philippines from my home base in Belgium. The question I posed to hundreds of expats living in the Philippines was, what were your expectations when you started dating Filipinas, and did they live up to them? Someone answered, I didn't have any expectations. I only wanted a good and honest woman. So he did have expectations. He expected to find a good and honest woman. Don't we all have expectations when we take life-changing decisions? A successful Californian vlogger replied that his expectations were the same as they had always been, even in the USA. He wanted to be involved with a woman he finds attractive and who is a trustworthy and fun companion. He says he found that several times in the Philippines, but previous relationships ended because of different expectations about matters such as starting a family or where to live. Problems which he doesn't have with his present girlfriend, because they see eye to eye as far as their long-term plans are concerned. Finding a great Filipina woman is really not that hard, he states. But too many guys either don't know what they want or don't appreciate it when they have it. And some get addicted to a bad Filipina despite all the drama. I follow him in his discourse, except that I believe that if you go to the Philippines with the same expectations as you would have when you are dating back home, you will find that there are cultural differences to consider. Another expat supports me in this and says that he believes that the majority of people have some kind of expectations, yet are afraid they may offend or push away the person they like if they bring them up. He points out that the Filipina too may have expectations, and that therefore it is important that you both air out at the beginning of the relationship, especially because your cultural ways can be vastly different. I use the input of several expats to list the 7 most important expectations and address each one of them individually. So stay with me for the 8th episode of The Expat Files. A lot of men look for a Filipina because they know that in the Philippines they can get girls half or less than half their age who in their own country wouldn't give them a second glance. And sometimes it works. More often they are just after your money, or as someone says, it takes 2 to tango. We look for the cheerleader we never dated in high school, and they want to see if Santa Claus really exists. While working in Cebu, someone met a Filipina from Bohol, 22 years his junior. They have been together for 10 years and recently celebrated their 8th wedding anniversary. He says, our marriage is not perfect, as we both are headstrong and don't take crap from each other. We each bend when we have to and learn to adapt to each other. My wife and I are very honest with one another, and we already agreed that if one of us dies, we would never marry with such an age gap again. as it is not always easy. Someone who lives in New York with his wife, who is 26 years younger than him and comes from an upper middle class Filipino family, says, "My younger wife came here to be with me. I didn't hide anything about my past or my financial situation. She knew I wasn't wealthy and that I was disabled. We do have our differences, but we work them out. We are expecting our second child, and my mother-in-law travels here and stays with us for 6 months at a time. I get along with her also. It all depends on the girl you settle down with." Someone else has been together for over 7 years with a girl who is 40 years younger than him. He testifies, "I couldn't believe that such a young girl could really care about me. But I got a reality check when I had another heart attack and then a stroke. She stood by me and, together with her family, took care of me when I couldn't walk and was basically bedridden for over 6 months. She handled my money and kept an account of everything she spent. She made sure I had someone with me all the time. Her sisters helped out and never made me feel like a burden. As I improved, they were all there to help me do rehab and pulled me through. I received much more than I ever expected. My girl stood by me, and because she saved our money, we are sitting very well now. I know my health is very bad, but I know I have someone who will never desert me. I hope everyone finds what I have." Wow. That's some story, isn't it? It shows that not all young Filipinos are chasing old foreigners for their money. Another expat gave his take on the matter when he said, "True, a lot of guys want a young girlfriend, but at the same time these women also get what they desire: financial security and a partner who respects them and takes care of them. These relationships are give and take. But not everybody feels the same way about large age gaps. Someone says, don't get a girl who looks like your granddaughter. Get one who is educated and with a decent job. Then you won't get into trouble." As you see, opinions differ. And that's okay. Filipinos are very family-minded. Their family means everything to them. When you marry them, you become part of that family, and most of them will take very good care of you. One expat said, "They know how to be loving, supportive, and care for a man's needs. I'm very independent, but I found that not allowing them to take care of me made them insecure, and issues would happen." But becoming part of her family can also have other consequences. Someone said, "When you date the girl, you also have to date the family." Money begging is often a serious issue, which was acknowledged by many others. An expat who is now married and has great in-laws who are dirt poor but never ask for anything, says some of his previous relationships stranded because of the girl's family. Others confirmed that they had the same experience. Someone who's been married for 28 years says he never had any problems like that. And another one states that his wife is as tight-fisted as the bark on a tree. I won't go deeper into this matter, as I've already done a video on the pros and cons of living close to your Filipinas family. If you didn't watch it and want to know more on the subject, I can refer you to episode 4 of the Expat Files, entitled Proximity of Relatives. I think happiness is on top of everybody's list. Who doesn't want to be happy? When we start dating someone, we expect to find happiness with this person. For some it works out, and for others it doesn't. But it is certainly a major criterion. Let me quote an expat who says, "My expectation, or hope, was that they would be as friendly in person as they were online. They are. And more. And I have learned that even the things we complain about in the Philippines are also among the reasons I love the Philippines. In 14 years, the Philippines has taught me so much about happiness and myself. If you are looking for love, then you will find the one you need. If you are superficial, you may find pleasure, but not love and care." Someone else says, "I had no expectations. I thought it would be another failure. But we are still happily married, and I know many years of happiness will follow." Allow me to correct this gentleman. You did have expectations. You were expecting failure, but you found happiness instead. And in your case, I'm glad your expectations didn't materialize. Another one says, "Things are not as expected, but that doesn't mean that things are bad. I would not change my life for anything. I am the happiest guy on the planet." And here's another statement. "Life is fantastic. My wife loves me as much as I love her in every way. She is 12 years younger than me, but love bridges all differences." Another happy man says, "My wife is great. I'm glad I married her. It's not always smooth sailing, but we do well together. That's all I really wanted. Given my past record, it's miraculous, honestly. I really lucked out." "I've been lucky twice," someone else says. "I married back in 1972, and it was great until I lost her to cancer. I waited until the kids were on their own, and I was retired before looking again. I found a great lady out in the province. She's a licensed teacher, and we have had 5 wonderful years together in spite of a wide age gap. A retired senior widower met his Filipina in the US. I didn't have any expectations," he says, "but I knew after our second date that I wanted to marry her. And we did, 4 months after we met. That is now going on 2 years ago, and I have to say that she surpassed any expectations I could have had. She is wonderful." I'm really glad that lots of men found happiness with a Filipina. I received so many testimonies that I can't read them all, but I don't want to withhold this one from you. I met my first Filipina wife in 2006. She was heaven sent. As she was 15 years younger, I thought she would easily outlive me, but God had other plans. I lost her to cancer after 10 years. On her deathbed, she asked me to promise her I would marry another Filipina. Fortunately, God blessed me again. I married my now wife last year, and I feel blessed to have found my soulmate again. One of the most important expectations Westerners have when dating a Filipina is honesty. Dishonesty can destroy any relationship, as many of us have found out the hard way. Someone says that the internet, Facebook, and dating sites make it so much easier for Filipinas to scam, trick, and con foreigners. And that's true. But there are also lots of foreigners who dated a Filipina in pre-cyberspace times and were also taken for a ride. In this context, I was glad to receive a few stories of expats who really found a good and honest woman and were willing to testify about it. I selected one story which was really my favorite. After chatting with several girls who were only looking for a ticket to the States, I found one who wanted to stay local, he says. We chatted for almost a year before I retired and went to the Philippines, knowing it was going to be a one-way trip. I had already sent her money to rent and occupy a furnished 3-bedroom house in a gated community and to hire a car and driver to pick me up at the airport. I'm just pausing this story to tell you what went through my mind when I read this. I thought, oh no. I've read so many stories of expats getting conned that way. Well, apparently he had read those stories too, as he continues, fully expecting to get stood up at the airport. I was happy to see that she showed up and took me home just like she said she would. It actually worked out. We got married 6 months later, and we've been living happily ever since. I don't need to be reminded that I lucked out with the same grace that saves fools, drunks, and lost children. I broke all the rules and did everything I wasn't supposed to do. I've been very fortunate, but I don't recommend that anybody try it the way I did. Cool story. There's a lot more to be said about honesty issues in the Philippines that don't only apply to your Filipina partners. You may get cheated by taxi drivers, gas station attendants, business owners, salespeople, or other members of Philippine society. I'm sure there's enough to be said on the subject to fill one of my future episodes of the Expat Files. So keep following my channel. Jealousy is probably not on your list of expectations, but it will certainly be part of your new reality when you date or marry a Filipina. Someone testifies, "She asked me for the password of my cell phone. I had to explain about personal space, respect, and trust, but apparently just couldn't register into her head. Probably traumatized. by the ghosts of her Pinoy past. Indeed, Filipinas can be very jealous. Beware not to look at other women too much, as this may trigger an instant tampo attack. You don't know about tampo? Then you didn't watch the previous episode of the Expat Files. Something that Filipinas fail to understand is that, for most men, looking at women stems from their admiration for beauty and, except for those few girlfriend hoppers who will never stay with one woman, is completely harmless. A man looks at women the way he looks at cars, another one of his passions. When we see a new model, we want to check out what it looks like, but that doesn't mean we are going to rush to the dealership to buy it. The Filipinas' jealousy can be a pain in the neck sometimes. But look at it from the bright side. When a woman is jealous, it means that she loves you and doesn't want to lose you. When starting a relationship with a Filipina, you should be prepared for certain money issues. Does she love you or your money? Will her family see you as their ATM machine? Does she know how to handle, budget and save money? An expat says, "My wife is book smart, but has no common sense when it comes to taking care of all the finances. That is my job." She gets a set amount and splits what she makes in her little dental business. A man who still lives in Europe but is planning to move to the Philippines next year when he retires says that he and his wife found each other by accident and are now going to celebrate their 10th anniversary with their 2 kids. He states, "We know many Filipinas here in Europe, and only a few found true love. The others just came for the money and are now regretting it every day of their life. They wish they had never left the Philippines." Indeed, we hear a lot of stories about Filipinas with dollar signs in their eyes. And yes, they do exist. Fortunately, there are also others, and if you can find one of those, you should hold on to her. Like this gentleman who married his 22-year younger wife 30 years ago, and they are still going strong. "I was 42 when we met," he says, "and her family rescued me. I was in a deep nervous breakdown after losing everything I had. Today I love her even more than when we met. Many times we didn't eat 3 times a day, and sometimes we still struggle. But she doesn't want another husband, and I wouldn't change her for anything in the world." Someone who's been living in Southeast Asia for 30 years says that he learned early on to tell interested women that he was just a serve bum who planned on living in their country. That weeded out the gold diggers within minutes, and the ones that didn't care about money ended up being marriage material. A Norwegian says, "My expectation was to find a good partner and wife. It had to be someone close to my own age, who was educated and had a job. I'm absolutely happy with my woman. She's caring, loving, good-looking, and able to use money and keep the budget." Before moving on to the seventh and last expectation, I want to thank all the expats who responded to my question. Also the ones who were not quoted in this video for lack of time. Guys, you are absolutely great. It is your input that makes this series interesting. To the viewers I would say, thanks for watching. Please like, comment and subscribe. Some expats praise Filipina women for their simplicity. One of them said, "Two professional women turned into idiots. Then a simple, loving Filipina came into my life and now we are happy together." Simplicity does not necessarily equal lack of intelligence. It is a character trait that is often appreciated by foreigners because it is so hard to find in Western women. Someone testifies, "I was told by expats who were more experienced in the dating circle that I was bringing my girlfriends up to my level too fast, and they couldn't handle it." At the time, I felt that was a horrible thing to say, as I not want to think that I'm better than anyone else. But in hindsight, I should have listened to their experience. To this man I want to say, good point. And that's exactly why I started the Expat Files, so we can learn from each other. And to all of you who watched this video till the end, thanks for watching and keep an eye out for the next video in this series.